Hello everyone, it's Matterall talking about Eve News. The date is Monday, July 27th, 2020. So yesterday we had a great show. It's one of the best ones we've had in a while as far as I'm concerned. From my perspective, and that was, we had a great mix of people and it was almost too much information. That was maybe the one criticism we had. But we had Baleful now has joined us as a permanent part of TIS. She's great. Brings a lot to it. Great chemistry with Elise, who's a pillar of TIS. And we had Artemis there, which is a rare viewing these days, but he's fantastic. He put up some stats. They turned out some of them were wrong. So we went ahead and fixed those on the show notes and everywhere else that stuff was posted. Actually, let me bring that up. And then we had Caleb, who's I love theorizing with, and then Ron, who's a fantastic part of TIS for a long time. Now he's doing his own thing and doing a fantastic job streaming all the live stuff. If you have not subscribed to Ron USMC, you should do that, especially for this war. If you're interested in live coverage and explanations and getting context on what's going on, there's few people in his category. I would say Suetonia would cover some big fights, and Chocolate Rain is really good too, but usually on the big fights. But Ron is that steady all day long kind of stream, so check that out. Morning, Tiberius.
I would also like to say with Ron, aside from his hatred for wormholers, the guy has infinite patience. And if you don't know what's going on, you don't understand the mechanics or what's happening or anything of the sort, he will answer the same question 25 times and not have any issues with explaining it again. And he does a really good job. He'll even have like graphical presentations with his Epic Pen stuff drawing on a screen. So he is, if you want to know what's going on, you're new to the scene and you're getting involved with the war, he is the guy for you.
Yeah. Let's see. He looks like this, although we can't stream his stuff because it's not allowed, but I want to see if I can zero in on his channel. There it is. That's the guy. If you're there, you're in the right place. And I recommend that you go there before and after these shows. But let's get started here. Anyway, so yesterday, great show, good people. I had a good time. It was nice. Made a few mistakes, but I'll work to fix those. Okay, EVE Online. Wow, Fountain is on fire. It's the most violent region in the last 24 hours with over 2,000 ships destroyed, 2,150. Let's do it that way. Delve in second place. I didn't know Delve was so active with 1,670 ships destroyed. And in return, Catch has seen some activity with 801 ships destroyed. And then in fourth place was Querious, 629 ships destroyed yesterday. Big day for IHUBs. Doesn't look like a big day for collisions of fleets. What's really interesting, though, is the Forge, where maybe Goonswarm is doing a ton of damage to freighters coming out of Jita system. With so it's the most violent area in Empire space. Forge saw 2,955 ships destroyed, over 1,200 pods. That's a lot. And Lone Trek is in second place, 2,446. Sync Liaison, again, looking at Sync Liaison for a lot of activity lately, 1,250. Right now, we don't see any activity in the last 3 hours, but I think the Northern forces are forming up for raids in Fountain, and it looks like it's going to be a busy morning for them, or a busy afternoon, depending on where you're at. But basically, within the next, I would say, 4 hours, you're going to see some really big form-ups from the north. The northern powers being the invading PAPI group that is attacking Fountain. And below, let's see if I can distinguish what they were going to do. They're forming big for Fleet 1600. They have red pens, which are a big deal, for some massive timers, and they're attacking in its staging, it looks like. So it looks like a big deal. What's going on with you, Tiberius?
Not much, just enjoying my coffee this morning.
Yeah, same. Let's look at the initiative specifically. They're the owners of Fountain before. They've dropped 27 systems, and this is in the last 7 days. So 27 systems. I don't know how many there are in Fountain, but they have clearly fallen back from Fountain and moving towards YTAC. Let's have a look at that. They're at YTAC 2. Just go to Fountain region here. They've fallen way back here to YTAC 2 ANO. That's a famous system in the Basilisk constellation. That borders Delve. So they've basically fallen back to Delve. They have one system into Fountain so they can project from there. But I'll show you, the projection range is kind of limited. Let's just say capitals, not super capitals, because that's maybe what they're likely to use. It's really just a southern little portion here. It's not even the central. You might see it better on this map here. If I can shrink that. No, that's as small as it gets. Yeah, so you can see it's not, they're only projecting to 1/4, maybe 20% or 1/4 of Fountain. So that's where they'll be able to influence. And I think yesterday they even, I think Goonswarm with the initiative was late to save some industrial complexes. Some, oh, I forget where that was, maybe CTAC-N. And it was weird. The messages I got were, yeah, this was in, see if I can bring that battle report up. Anyway, it looked like initiative, was it KVN? Or no, it was CN, that's right. It looked like, this reminds me of actual World War B in 2016, where one of the fights, Goonswarm came to save something, and it was a pause at the time, but they arrived late. And we were thinking something's wrong because they're arriving late. Either they don't want the fight or we couldn't figure out what was going on. I don't know if we figured out what was going on. It might have been that they had miscoordinated something. Well, that happened again in World War B too, just yesterday, where the Imperium arrives late to save these engineering complexes and then proceeds to get baited out of their area of influence. Let's go back to, I think they got pulled into some other, they got pulled out of their drop range, so they couldn't escalate or reinforce or counter escalate, and then they got wiped out in CTAC-N. It's right here. I don't know if you could see that with the mouse. I'll come back and light it up. Yeah, see here, that's not in their jump range. That's actually one step out of KVN, which is in their jump range, but they would have to jump and then gate over. And that's where they had the fight. And I don't know how well it went. When I talked to some Goonswarm guys, they said that, they got ready to defend this thing. It didn't happen for whatever reason. They were there, and they're like, we're not going home. Let's party. Let's do this fight. Win or lose. We'll probably lose, but let's do it. And so it was more of a, let's just have some fun. So it might have been a puzzling, but that's probably the explanation. We had over 1,500 people in CTAC-N. And now let's look at that battle report. I don't know how this went, so let's see. There was, 1,357 players in there. That might be a little off. 77 billion were lost. And let's see. Yeah, so it's about 72 billion of that was on the Goonswarm side. 5 billion was on the... Okay, so it's a bit of a massacre, it looks like, unless I'm reading this wrong. What kind of ships were destroyed? Mostly faxes. Well, it looks like a lot got out, though. It looks like a lot of the Balgorns got chewed up. I think that's what I remember seeing in the... Yeah, so the Balgorns got chewed up, but the... so it's a battleship fleet from Goonswarm. But the Megathrons made it out. Balgorns got chewed up. It looks like they dropped caps on them, so... That's what happened in C-Tech and yesterday. Another thing that happened yesterday, I don't know if you saw this, Tiberius, but the amount of IHUBs that were being assaulted yesterday was like astounding.
Yeah, weren't they essentially all in the Bastion, if I was looking at it right?
Oh, they were.
I haven't looked at that in a while.
No, they were in Querious. I'm sorry, I was thinking of Querious. I don't know about the IHUBs in... Let's go back to...
There's a good many of them in Fountain right now, obviously.
I think we can check. Okay, yeah. Right. I guess we'll finish talking about Fountain, but I'm out of information on Fountain. I do know there's fights today. There were fights yesterday. There's aggressive pushes towards really cleaning up. I think a message went out from NC about we need to clean this place up. They kind of broke it too fast, I guess, and they're in now cleanup mode, just wiping things out, wiping IHUBs out, taking over TCUs and destroying structures. They'll turn around and destroy structures. Those will be uncontested. They have no projection. The initiative, the former owners of Fountain, don't really have any projection into places like over here, J5A-IX, which is a Keepstar system, IGE, which is another Keepstar, I believe. Those are unlikely to be defended, and the form-ups are so strong from the north, over 1,500, 2,000 people. You can't really contest that with battleship fleets. So those Keepstars are going to probably be dropped, destroyed. And with Initiative sitting back in YTAC 2 and really only being able to cover a quarter of Fountain, the rest of the other 75% of Fountain is really up for grabs. And I think that's going to be a bit of a grind for the northern powers. But I think they're going into its staging, and I don't know if that's YTAC 2 or not. So I don't know if they're playing if the North is playing a really aggressive game and going right after Fountain, pushing them deep into Delve, or if they're going to take the time now to stop, pause, and clean up what they've already taken over.
Well, that would be the smart thing to do, because from my perspective, what it looks like what Initiative is doing is they're doing a tactical retreat. They're not they're giving up space in order to regroup defensively and dig themselves in like a tick, in order to, put up a better defensive fight. The amount of work that these guys are going to need to do in order to completely flip Fountain is going to, I don't want to necessarily burn people out, but I'm sure, I know that it's been said a couple of times now that if you do a whole bunch of CTAs back to back to back, and you're eventually going to burn out your player base, and they're not going to want to show up. They're probably going to be more interested in, doing either IRL stuff or going back to their home base and maybe doing some of their own ISK making stuff that they used to be doing, et cetera, et cetera.
I don't know if they'll be able to.
But I believe that Initiative is turtling up and preparing for a real slugfest coming up here soon. And it would be smart for the Northern powers to reinforce these IHUBs and TCUs and dig in for the long game. Because if they continue to push forward, eventually there's a potential that Goons and Initiative could counterattack and end up being a real slugfest.
Counterattack where?
Yeah. Hey, Killaby, how's it going? Let me turn you up. I think before you talk and solve the puzzle, Killaby, I'm going to try to get this out, and I may be wrong, and you can correct me. But I think the way I look at this war is I look for psychological breakpoints, right? I'm not looking at territory conquered or not. I'm looking for changes in strategy. We saw that after Altac A, I think. They realized they couldn't really project power because the dread bomb, the impending dread bomb that would counterattack was too strong for even their Titans fleet. They would lose Titans. So instead of risking anything, they've fallen back because they recognize they cannot take on the force of the people who are coming. And so what they need to do is consolidate into Goon Swarm in order to fight with much more of their participation. Now, Goon Swarm is busy in the south, holding off Test relatively well. Give or take Querious if you want to talk about that. But the point is that they need to consolidate too, because they need more power than they actually have. I think that's what's going on. But Killaby, what is going on?
We'll see tonight if they have any intention of defending Fountain, but based on their movements, they don't. At least Northern Fountain is gone, right? Because they deployed all their supers, all their caps into White Tech 2, which puts them out of range of all of Northern Fountain, which means the J5A Keepstar is likely going to die, mostly uncontested. I would be surprised if Goons or Init put up a big effort to defend that. So will the IGE one, I would assume. We'll see if they let us kill the IHUB, because today both the IHUBs in J5A and IGE come out. If we manage to kill both those IHUBs today, it's over, right? Like both those systems are done.
Yeah, those are Keepstar systems, right?
Both. And J5A is a Goon Keepstar, IG is in it, right? It's a bit of a difference there as well. But if we kill both those IHUBs tonight, Northern Fountain is wrapped up, basically. Obviously, there's still a lot of shit to kill and do stuff to do, but they're not going to be able to defend anything anymore.
Yeah, I think Fountain has given up at this point. I think it's pretty clear.
I agree. They already extracted most of their stuff into White Tech 2, so they're preparing for the move into Delve. One day that day will come where they decide to go into Delve, and what they will do is they will, Goons will form really big, and it will form really big. They'll shuttle all those caps through that gate, and then they're in Fortress Delve. So that's pretty much that, right? We'll see if they try to hold in to White Tech 2 a bit longer, but maybe they put up a bit more of an effort for Southern Fountain, I guess, from White Tech 2. Could be, but don't think so.
Yeah, so those
fights like yesterday as well don't really help them.
What happened yesterday? Do you want to clarify? I talked about it.
We went to kill a KVN Tatara because it's T2 rigged. We knew it was T2 rigged, and those are worth a lot, the T2 rig. So we knew it was a shiny kill mail to grab at least, right? We knew it was going to be it ended up being 26 billion on Zico. I have no idea if that's accurate or not. I don't really care either, but it's a juicy kill mail people I get excited about. So we ended up, going to shoot it. And when we did, Init Flash formed, Goons formed as well, formed a mega fleet, and Init formed Ishtars. And we decided to go all battle cruisers. We were expecting Init to form, and they do like their new Ishtars. So we decided to do Ferox blob with the entire coalition. And the Ishtars did pretty well at the start versus just the Feroxes, but then the Goon mega fleet decided to jump into 400 Feroxes on the gate at 0. And obviously they got absolutely destroyed. We dropped caps on them as well because it's a battleship fleet. Why not? We have complete cap dominance in Northern Fountain. They cannot project like CTEC. So if you look at the geography of Fountain, CTEC and KVN gate, it's a constellation gate. Both systems are part of the same region, but it is very, very big. It's basically a regional gate, right? Like Fountain is basically two regions if you look at it, Northern and Southern Fountain. And we have complete cap dominance in Northern Fountain. So we knew that they weren't going to do anything about our caps, so we dropped caps on those battleships and we destroyed them with the Feroxes. We ended up killing 77 bill and only lost like 4. So that was a very one-sided battle report.
Right. That was you guys shoot up a bunch of battleship with carriers.
Yeah, we killed a buttload of Balgorns. I don't think the carriers did, like the carriers and dreads helped killing their fags. They had like 5 fags on grid as well, goons, that is. Those got destroyed very fast. But the Balgorns, we had 495 Feroxes on grid at the start of the fight, right? Like that is nothing tanks, nothing. There's literally like those battleships, even without caps, we would have won that fight by a mile, but we would have lost more Feroxes in return, of course, right? And at that point, we just wanted to dig on them, so we dropped caps. We still would have won that fight even without the caps quite easily, because like this battleship fleet would have been gone like 10 minutes later anyways by the subs. I was killing 2 Balgorns at a time just with my fleet. Horde had 2 Ferox fleets on grid. We had Recon and FRT as well in the Ferox fleet. Like they were just dying like so fast, all the Balgorns, and then So I don't think Init will turtle up anywhere. Yeah, they will probably counterattack, and by counterattack they mean that they're going to go into drones and then toss us space up there, which is funny because, you know, when NC deployed, before the deployment even, Vince already said, like, unless they're going for the NSI Keepstar, which is a home staging, right? Unless they reinforce the NSI Keepstar and go for that, we're not going to come back. We don't care about losing a couple IHUBs here. We can just put them back up later. We don't really care about losing, you know, some shitty Athenors or whatever. It's not going to matter. We're like, at least NC dot, we're in this war to finish it, and we're not going to deploy back to defend our home. And like, luckily so far, you know, they've imposed us a whole bunch of IHUBs already. In it is, they go through wormholes usually to drones. They reinforce like 10, 15 IHUBs in the evening, but all our stuff is timed to USTZ, and in it practically has no USTZ, right? So we just defend all that stuff in USTZ, basically uncontested, and it's whatever. So unless they make some bigger strategy out of that, where they involve goons USTZ as well, I don't see them making any progress.
Yeah, but then they would have to pick who they're counterattacking against, because they would take both of them.
Yeah, I mean, so since goons have been pushing the test is next narrative, I'd be surprised if they end up going for us next, because that wouldn't go very well with their narrative of test is next.
Oh,
they've been awfully friendly to us, actually. I like what they're doing at the moment, because they're trying to drive this wedge between Legacy and Test and us, right? The PanFam sort of thing. Yeah. And what they keep doing on every public appearance, they talk a lot of shit about Test, and then they keep buttering us up and going, yeah, PanFam's been doing way better than we expected and found. They're a very strong coalition, very well coordinated, and then they go on, but Tests, they're so bad. They don't get a valiant progress, don't get anything done. Right? They're trying to drive this wedge where like the line members that watch that be like, it's true, Test hasn't have made any progress at all. We've been pushing Fountain in for the last 3 weeks, right? Well, what's going on? Why isn't Test doing their part?
I see what you're saying,
That's
but
they're trying to do.
There is a history there that they can exploit, where Pandemic Legion and Test did not get along very well at all.
Luckily, when it comes to, you know, we do weekly war updates as well. We don't do it as often as Imperium does, but we do, like, every Sunday we do a war update with NC Dot. And you know, the good thing about NC Dot is at least that, you know, everybody just wants to shoot goons anyways. Like, wherever we go, our priority is always goons, and then, you know, whatever, who else. So it's, for us, it's easy. And, you know, PL has been, it's true, they have had a rocky history, but so far in terms of coordination and working together, everything's been going very smoothly. There has not been any sort of internal drama yet on the leadership level. Nobody's called out Test for not achieving enough, because they're doing significant part. We know that most days when goons are busy defending their stuff in Querious and period basis, we know that we can basically do whatever we want in Fountain, because at most one goon fleet will show up here. When like 2 goon fleets are tied up in Querious and period basis, 1 goon fleet could still be formed and come to Fountain, but we can handle 1 init fleet, 1 goon fleet quite easily. Horde alone formed 2 full subcap fleets the other day.
Wow.
on Saturday, I think it was. Horde had like 1,000 characters logged in our staging. They formed like 2 full subcap fleets and a full capital fleet all together. Like
they've grown. So
yeah,
you're
Horde's
saying
massive.
Test is holding down Goonswarm's feet in Delve and period basis, and that allows you a lot better odds against the initiative and smaller goon fleets.
Yeah, it gives us free reign over them, basically, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that's why I think so far everything is doing their part very well. It's all good. We don't, people probably assume that when we plan this war, or when we planned it or whatever, that we had like a 3-month strategy or whatever, but that's not really how one scale works. You look at a week-by-week basis, right? We have once a week, sometimes twice a week, we have coalition leadership meetings with Willy, ProGod, every alliance leader and the main FCs. And we look at the past week and we look what we want to achieve in the next week, right? And that's how we plan this, and that's it. Obviously, there is like longer term thinking involved, especially when it comes to like, okay, so what do we do with the soft once it's been burnt down, taken over, who gets it, stuff like that, or what happens. There's some long-term planning, but we don't really go into detail on that because it's so hard to do in EVE. So we look at what do we want to achieve the next week, and then we achieve that, or we don't, and then the next week we look, okay, so what did we manage to achieve of the goals we did set for ourselves, and then we adjust, we adapt. And I think it's the only way to fight a war like this.
Yeah, well, I think
that's why.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
Setting we got to do this in 3 months sets you up for failure if you can't.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
And to be fair, like I know other operations work differently, but having this is my 4th or 5th big war that I was involved in terms of planning and everything, and I can tell you, 90% of the people that tell you, like when there's sometimes there's these Reddit stories and they tell you like, oh, we've been planning this for 8 months. Yeah. Like 90% of that is bullshit because that's just not how EVE works. You can't plan anything. Like, so the whole like in it narrative, if we planned this Hard Knocks eviction 1 year in advance, that's bullshit. They didn't.
Well,
that doesn't work. You don't have to, huh?
The smart people didn't say that. I mean, Panda was like, no, we didn't plan this for a year.
Exactly.
Somebody gave it to them who had planned it for a year, handed it to them. And,
yeah. That's fair enough. But like it's probably like this war, honestly, without going into all that much detail, is probably one of the longest planned wars that I've been involved in, and that's mainly because there was some very, very early ramblings of like, is this maybe a thing we could do? But there was no, like Willy said that on, I think it was a TIS show, there was no serious planning happened until like 2 weeks before or 3 weeks before the nip ended, right? Before then there was no serious planning. There was just people talking to each other and like spitballing ideas, basically, right? Being like, is this something we could be able to do at some point in time? What if, like very, very vague and not really set into stone. And then, about a month before the nip ended, things started being a bit more serious.
I think he said it was about 3 weeks before where he took those plans off the shelf and said, let's do this. Yeah.
So, and there was a lot of movement. Like I'm looking forward to when the dust is settled and all of this and is over. I'm looking forward to talking about it as well, because there is some, there is certain events that are linked to each other when it comes to this that, people may not think were linked to this, but they were. And that's it's always very interesting, I think, to talk about. So,
some factors that played into this before.
Yeah,
it started.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a bunch of stuff which people I think will find very interesting. So, but for now, that's none of our priority as well, right? Because we still have the war to win. Like, we're far from over. It's very far from over. Yeah. Fountain was stage 1. Sometimes I slip up and I say Fountain was. Yeah. Even Fountain isn't done yet, but it's looking pretty good for us. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I would be very surprised if they suddenly make a major comeback in Fountain, or they manage to hold out in Fountain for very long.
Yeah. One more question, then we'll go to some of the chat here. Sorry, it's taking a while to get to the chat, but
oh wait, you were live?
Yeah, we're live. Did you not know that?
No, I didn't. But
no wonder
fine.
You were so good, like totally relaxed. But let me ask you this: I forgot my question because I surprised you with being live. You're cool, right? Did you say anything you shouldn't have said?
No, it's all good.
All right, good. I should have warned you before you jumped in. well, let me just go to chat here. Nick says a couple points. One, all the Fountain IHUBs with Dutch TCU are Bastion IHUBs. I guess that's a corporation Dutch renter territory. Two, about PAPI burning out. That sounds like wishful thinking from the Imperium side. Attackers don't get tired or burned out anywhere near as much as the defenders that have or are in the process of losing battles or space. So that did come up. Are you guys going to get tired of having to do all the soft grind in Fountain? Is that a part of a strategy of falling back and making them do the work of taking out structures, which is kind of boring?
That's a fair point, and I think it's something I kind of mentioned a little bit when we talked about in it sort of seeding some parts of Fountain and focusing on those core constellations. It's certainly something we have to manage very carefully, especially in NC. Horde, we have the big advantage that we have Horde on our side, and Horde is a gigantic war machine, and I have this huge group of people that just, they're still so enthusiastic about the game. They want to go out into space. They want to do whatever, as long they want to play the game, right? And they don't really care about whether it's shooting in a Raitaru or, reinforcing an IHUB. They want to be able to say, I was part of it. I did something here. I accomplished something. And that is a huge advantage for us, because obviously with NC. It's a bit more difficult because we're a very old alliance, and a lot of the people in NC. They're very hard to motivate sometimes, because they're like, oh, I've done this 3 times over. I don't really want to do any of this, So Horde is definitely playing probably the biggest part in our success at the moment, because they do this relentless 24/7. They grind all the Athenors, they reinforce all this stuff, and it's something that NC. Wouldn't be able to do. And because we have that card, because we have Horde on our side, and they're working so well with us at the moment, we get to manage our burnout in NC. Very well.
Okay.
So we don't actually have to do a lot of that tedious grinding. NC. We show up and we grind for the big stuff, right, when it's important, and all like the little grinds that go on in the meantime, like Horde just takes care of that, and they love to take care of it too.
Yeah.
Right?
So the veteran burnout factor isn't there because Horde's doing a lot of that work, and they're very excited because it's all new to them.
I did like 2 Horde fleets because there was no Horde FC around at the time, and there were important timers, so I asked Gobbins and Alpha Star Pilot, who is the main FC of Horde at the moment, if I could run Horde, and they were okay with it, so I FC'd Horde.
Oh, cool.
And honestly, the enthusiasm and the happiness in the Horde fleet, it surprised me so much. Coming from NC. It was an incredible feeling just seeing all those, not necessarily new people, but they just have a different attitude in Horde, right? Like whatever we did, I mentioned that we were going to kill an important IHUB, and everybody in Fleet was like, hell yeah, let's go do it. Let's do it, right? Like everybody was so excited about it. When I say like, hey guys, we're going to go and toss this an IHUB on an NC. Fleet, half my fleet leaves, right? That's a bit exaggerated, obviously, but it's bad compared to that. So it's amazing having Horde and the beans on our side at the moment.
Another
but
question.
We've been doing. Just to point that out as well, I don't want to shit talk my own alliance too much. We've been doing very well in NC as well so far. Everybody's loving the war and the content they've been given. So
yeah, I was listening to one of the FC's Blazing Bunny, and he just the way he's talking about it, he seems pretty pumped up. Okay, another question here from Spectre Age. Killaby, does the asset safety change any of the tactics regarding the cleanup of Fountain? Is it just destroy everything, or maybe leave some structures that might turn into abandoned state and look for some loot? That's interesting.
On the early stages of in its defense of Fountain, they bragged about how all the important citadels had 2 years worth of fuel in them, and I can see that being true. So we're just going to burn everything down.
So not going to wait for anything to ripen into abandoned. Okay, that's an interesting point. And this is the first time we're seeing a war with the abandoned state.
It was talked about, right? Like it was certainly talked about. There was people talking about, okay, what if we leave this Keepstar alive and we just hellcamp it pretty much and we let it go into abandon? But honestly, like I believe Bliss when he said like, because he said that in Minnesota, he was like, all our Keepstars, all of our important citadels have like 2 years worth of fuel in them. I believe that because it's the same thing we do with our shit at home, right? So yeah, like that would be, we're not going to help camp J5A or IGE keep stuff for 2 years. So yeah,
2 years, waiting it out.
Just going to burn it down.
Yeah, you don't even know what's in there because they did evacuate a lot of stuff to low sec and back down to YTAC 2, I think, or KVN, I think at the time. I did see some information about Initiative moving stuff into low sec, which is a more permanent safety for your assets. All right, there are other questions, but I don't see any right off. I think everybody's talking to themselves, which is great. But we do have to go. I have an early day today. Killer B, thanks for coming by and just like blowing us away with a ton of information on what's going on. Again, if you want to know also what's going on with this war, if you're interested in this, check out last Sunday's Talking in Station, yesterday's Talking in Stations. We went over some statistics about some of the damage being done and stuff like that. Although there was one change, I'll make the correction now, but it's going to be in the show notes where it's corrected. And that is, let's see if it's here. No, it's here. Okay, so here's a message from Artemis, who actually gave out the stats. He says, "Hey team, there was an error in the formulas I used to filter the data when calculating timer loss percentages. As a result, the percentages in the graph shown and discussed during the Sunday show were inaccurate. Here is the accurate," I'll pop that up, graphs. Looks like only major point that changes is the one about the troll timers. It appears that on average, the Imperium loses 45% of TCU timers and 28% of IHUB timers. So look for that correction. All right. I put it up on the wrong thing. There it is. You can take a quick gander at that. Thanks again, Killer B and Tiberius. Those are the two voices that you heard today. We'll be back tomorrow. Appreciate it very much. And let's actually raid if we can. I don't see Ron, but he's our first choice.
Ron is online.
He is. Okay, well, let me pull that up. Sometimes it doesn't. So we're going to raid Ron, continue your day's coverage, and we'll see you tomorrow.